During that discussion, a name popped up. What would happen if Ghost Rider used his penance stare on so-and-so? And I thought, you know what? He is one of my favorite comic book characters. And I saw a video popped up into my feed. And I thought, you know what? This would be good for React. No, not Ultron. Penance stare wouldn't work on Ultron because Ultron's a robot. No. We are going to take a look at the absolutely absurd powers of John Constantine. It's a slightly longer dive into Constantine than other comic book videos that we watched, but Constantine is a very complex character. And I freaking love John. Okay, John is one of my favorite DC characters next to Batman. So let's dive into, like, we all know John is powerful as hell, but let's see just how powerful he really is. So, let's go!
Hey all, today I would like to talk about one of my favourite DC characters, the laughing magician Constantine. I'm going to go over Constantine's powers in this video, and I say it that way because it seems weird to try and talk about how strong Constantine is. He very rarely works that way. You'll have to buckle in for the long ride on this one. There's a lot to say about the Hellblazer. I'll be covering both classic and modern New 52 Constantine, but they should be more or less the same character due to the events of Convergence, where most characters were combined with their other iterations anyway.
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
I won't be able to go over everything. There's probably even more to go over for Constantine than there is for Superman, but we'll try and get there.
What? Jack, you've never heard of John Constantine? Oh, you are in for a treat. Constantine is, as of late, has become one of the most popular DC characters because he's got a great, primarily because of his attitude. John's attitude is just like, fuck you. Literally. He literally tells people in comics to go fuck themselves. And he's also one of the few characters in comics that actually ages. They actually had something like, I forget if it was like a 40th or 50th birthday party for John. Like, the guy actually ages in the comics. And yeah, what CW did, CW took the ABC Constantine and they kidified him. And it was tragic. Because Constantine's not a CW character.
Balks cheer 100.
Balks. In the Batman. Oh, really? He was in the Batman Beyond comics? I didn't know that. Huh. Okay, just take a look. You're gonna like this. John, you're gonna see this, and I think you're in for a treat.
I'll start off with what is hopefully the obvious. Constantine is a relatively normal human when it comes to his actual body. Well, he's got a bit of demon's blood in him, but who hasn't these days? He's often outgunned by his adversaries, and he's stated repeatedly that he's not the best or strongest wielder of magic. He might not even be the most intelligent magician, but he is the most cunning. There's a reason that Batman follows Constantine's lead when they team up. And this is where the Hellblazer shines. In those moments where he seems outmatched at every corner and makes it out with nothing but his wit. I mean, who else would go up to goddamn Trigon, destroyer of all that exists, and ask him to light your cigarette?
This is what I was talking about. I got it wrong saying he walked up to the devil. He walked up to Trigon. And for those of you that know who Trigon is, Trigon is the father of the Teen Titan Raven. This motherfucker could destroy everything, okay? In what was it? In Justice League Dark Apocalypse, where what's his name? God, what is the big bad's name? Darkseid. God, I can't believe I forgot that. When Darkseid basically had taken over Earth and was going to destroy everything. Darkseid is basically one of the strongest things in the DC universe, John unleashed fucking Trigon on Darkseid. Yeah, first he possessed Superman, and then he just basically he left Superman's body and manifested as himself. And the two and like they went toe to toe, and I'm pretty sure Trigon beat Darkseid. And Darkseid is like the most powerful being in DC. And Trigon kicked his ass. And John literally strolls up to Trigon in hell and says, "Got a light?" That's the kind of badass that John is. Okay? He walked up basically to the devil and said, with a cigarette, said, "Got a light?" Yes, Galactus is Marvel. That is Marvel.
I think this is what makes Constantine such an intriguing character. He's this odd, interesting parallel to heroes like Superman. The Man of Steel is kind of this paragon of good who won't back down until he gets the happy ending, no matter how many times he fails. Which is very endearing. I like Superman. A lot of his will to go on is inspiring, even. But Constantine is different. He's willing to get down and dirty. He'll do what it takes to beat the bad guys, even if he has to be a little bad himself to do it. His own immorality and corruption is often a joke throughout his appearances. In some cases, this even leads to some good scaling. During one of his misadventures with the JLA, they encountered Pandora's Box, an artifact that would corrupt anyone who touched it, even characters with decent resistance to those sort of things like Shazam. It would turn them into rampant aggressors, just going wild on anyone near them. Not Constantine, though. In his own words, this was because you can't soil a pot that's already filthy, love. On a similar note, Deadman can't possess him because his soul or mind is too filthy. Bearing in mind that...
Okay, think about that for a second. John's soul is so fucking solid that Deadman can't possess him. This is a character whose whole thing is he is basically a spirit that possesses the living. And he can't possess John because John's soul is so incredibly fucked up. That's how he is basically, if you were to give him like a D&D alignment, he would be, I would say, chaotic neutral. Right, yet no. John is far, far more than taking Sam and Dean Winchester and putting them together. Yeah, Raven, yeah, and yeah, that's the thing. It's Raven is terrified of her father because he's the destroyer of everything.
For too long, due to Batman's strong mind.
Yes, that's true, Rose Spartan. That's because Batman has strong will. Constantine's mind is just like probably diving into hell itself for Deadman.
This same Deadman has possessed ancient eldritch beings older than the New Gods, Trigon's kids, and the Phantom Stranger, God's personal appointed betrayer, and he still couldn't stand being inside Constantine's head for more than a moment.
Uh-huh.
One of Constantine's best assets is his ability to know when things have gone wrong. He can tell when a death had occurred within a room in the past. He sensed the creation of the strange abomination made by Nagol, and he was able to detect magical disturbances from the other side of creation instinctively. Things like that. So this doesn't seem like much, but information really is power to someone like Constantine, and often just knowing the situation is enough for him to succeed against the worst odds. When prep is your strong suit, a little forewarning is a powerful asset.
And bear in mind, what we're about to see here, with all this stuff about Constantine, this is one reason why I saw, what was that 3-part? Crap, what was that 3-part DC animated movie that came out recently? Crisis. Yeah, the 3-part DC animated Crisis on Infinite Earths, they came out, they did Constantine so fucking dirty in that series. He started off being like a mysterious stranger, and Like, they built it up, and then when Constantine got his memory back, the moment he got his memory back, they did him so fucking dirty. He was basically worthless for the entire rest of Crisis on Infinite Earths once he got his memory back. I was so pissed off with what they did to him in that. Because, like, once John got his fucking memories back in Crisis on Infinite Earths, holy shit, can you imagine what a powerhouse he would have been with all of that? And instead, he spent the rest of the entire movie, or the series of movies, drunk. And just not doing shit. It pissed me off so much what they did to him. I was not happy with it.
Powers, and his successors in general, might have something to do with Constantine's signature ability, the synchronicity wave. This essentially gives him good luck. He tends to be in the right place at the right time, and misfortune that would befall him tends to befall others in his place. It seems like Constantine does this passively as well. He essentially rides the wave of fate. This force is so potent that Lucifer Morningstar considers it relevant. Even distance and time themselves are said to sit up and beg for someone riding the synchronicity highway.
Bearing in mind, Lucifer Morningstar is a character in DC. The Lucifer TV series that started off on Fox and then went to Netflix. It didn't start off on Fox. It started on maybe it was like NBC that Lucifer was on. That TV series on both, I think it was NBC and then ABC. It was on ABC. So it started on ABC and then moved to Netflix after it got canceled off ABC and Netflix bought up to finish off the series. That Lucifer Morningstar is a character in DC. He is the second most powerful being in all of creation, next to literally God himself, the one above all. Lucifer is second only to the one above all. So his character in the show, that is an actual DC character. That's who it was based off of. And in the CW Crisis on Infinite Earths, he makes an appearance, which I'll show you after this video.
Some other sorted hacks of his include instinctively phasing attacks into a pocket dimension so that they can never touch him, like he did against Frankenstein. In this same scan, he incapacitates Frankenstein with a single word, claiming that it could bore into the pits of your soul. Bear in mind that Frankenstein has tangled with foes like Nebula Man before, who is a living...
Revan, you could be correct. I could be mixing up Marvel and DC's version of God. I thought DC's was called One Above All, but you could be right. That could be Marvel I'm thinking of. When it comes to the celestial beings, I lose track of the two franchises.
Universe. He also directly resisted the effects of the time gremlins created by Pralaya that were able to erase all of creation. Like, he literally swallowed them. And was even able to survive against Dr. Destiny, who in some iterations is portrayed as being relative to Dream of the Endless. Although I'm unsure of the canonity of this particular event, because the Dr. Destiny that scales to Dream of the Endless might be a different iteration. Regardless, Constantine has held the Dreamstone in his bare hands before without being injured, despite how powerful it is, and despite the fact that it's harmed Dream of the Endless himself before. The Hellblazer's power null is top-notch too. He's been able to easily incapacitate Swamp Thing completely by cutting him off from the green. Against a magical being that was far more powerful than himself, he was able to null them by putting their magic power itself somewhere else for a moment. It doesn't just...
Think about that.
To Steelman, the argument in keeping John out of the Crisis movies is a heavy hitter. At the time the Crisis comics were published, John was mostly seen in Swamp Thing comics and wasn't a part of the main DC universe, just a part of the multiverse. And wasn't a central or I believe even named character in the miniseries. Cheer 100.
Andrea, yeah, but that was at the time of the Crisis comics. When they've done Crisis in recent time, both on the CW version and in the DC animated film version that was even newer, they weren't strictly following the OG Crisis Comics because they had characters in both of those that didn't exist in the OG Crisis Comics anyway. So they could have changed it up to in the animated film to give John at least a better role than being a fucking truck. You know, they could have done something. Yeah, he could. Yeah, they you know, you couldn't basically have him just nuking everything. But he could have done more than just get drunk the whole damn time.
Stop at power now, though. He can straight up take your magic for his own, like he did against the Golden Boy, his twin from another reality. And he has seals that can lock up some of the most powerful characters in DC. He's created seals to temporarily trap Zoriel, an angel strong enough to completely erase the Phantom Stranger in one shot, a being who himself is a threat to all of creation. On another occasion, Constantine forcefully summoned the Phantom Stranger against his will.
Yeah, Andrea, I saw that one. And holy shit was I pissed when I saw that episode. They did Kevin Conroy so fucking dirty in that episode of Batwoman tied into the Crisis. Everyone, and I mean everyone, hated that episode because of how piss poor they treated Kevin Conroy's legacy on that show.
Proceeded to blackmail him with one of his silver coins, and then just as casually banished him again, also against his will. In a conversation with the Presence, God warned him that the Phantom Stranger might turn on him, with Constantine responding that he would have no problem dealing with him. The Phantom Stranger is just one member of the Trinity of Sin, the other two being the Question and Pandora, but
Wait. I'll see about pulling it up after this video. Is the Question... I thought the Question was just a normal human who was just like a quote-unquote crackpot conspiracy theorist. Does the Question actually have some kind of supernatural abilities that I'm unaware of? I always considered him just like a detective, a normal human, just with this really wild investigative mind. Is there more to him than that? Because if there is, I may have to look into the Question then. That may be a video we'll do another. I may have to look up a video explaining the Question. Right, I know he's a world-class investigator. That I do know. Okay, so we'll put a pin in that, and maybe we'll do a Question video another time.
Constantine has been shown to scale above the entire Trinity on a few occasions. As mentioned before, Pandora's box couldn't affect him, and on another occasion, over the course of 12 hours, he was able to capture and contain all three of them by himself, even after creating 7 seals that supposedly even God himself wouldn't have been able to get past.
Damn!
He also straight up tells the Phantom Stranger during his little blackmail session that the Justice League Dark has defeated enemies that make the Trinity of Sin look like the Three Stooges. He's utilised a spell called the Turnabout spell, which is essentially magic that returns all damage dealt to Constantine back to the person trying to deal it. Constantine obviously has...
That sounds like a D&D spell. For those of you in chat that play D&D, does that not sound like some kind of a D&D level like spell where it's like a reflective damage kind of thing where every time you attack, anytime you get attacked, the damage gets rebounded back onto the original attacker? Full count. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a magic spell. That's what this is. I've seen so many of these in various like video games. Where it's like it's either defense or it's like a magic spell, protection spell where if you get attacked, the damage basically rebounds back at the person attacking you. Yeah.
The Question has mentally enhanced the healing of injuries, sense danger, block pain, communicate with spirits, locate enemies and create astral projections. Cheer 100.
Really? I had no idea. Okay, we're definitely gonna have to look up the question for a future video.
He has a fair amount of mind hacks related powers as well. On a corkboard inside the House of Mystery, Constantine has notes on many of the Justice League members, and his note for Martian Manhunter says that he keeps trying and failing to wipe his identity from Constantine's mind. Constantine has created illusions.
The question's origin at the launch of the New 52 was altered, to where his name and face were taken from him by God, because of a crime so heinous that all memory of it and him were wiped while forcing him to remain. Cheer 100.
Interesting. Curiouser and curiouser.
That directly attack another person's guilt or bad conscience, which can be surprisingly effective depending on the character in question. It was at least enough to force a hardened criminal to suicide. Another illusion he created simulated the trial of Anubis, where one's morality is measured and the loser is killed.
I read this one.
It was so potent and convincing that he was able to actually kill Nabu, the Lord of Order behind Dr. Fate, purely using the illusion. And of course, he can do standard things like reading the minds of others or controlling their actions. In a more general sense, he also has access to a variety of curses. He cursed some random guy with bowel problems, erectile dysfunction, and a broken TV. He cursed his dad to a slow and painful death by connecting his life to a dead cat. And he made a bunch of criminals go mad when they tried to mess with him in prison. Even something as innocuous as his cigarette smoke is a powerful ward, even against opponents more powerful than himself, like Mr. E, who was amped by 1/3 of all of the artifacts Constantine had ever collected over his life as a magician.
I mean, not exactly a very anti-smoking hero, considering that his cigarette smoke functions as a fucking ward. And he's in, cause like John, I think is the one superhero left in comics that actually smokes. Logan, I don't think Logan smokes cigars anymore. I don't think they've allowed him to do that for a long time. But John still does, cause he's fucking John Constantine.
Early into his run, he was able to use something called quantum magic, a type of mathematical magic that has allowed characters to travel all the way out through the 5th dimension and to limbo before. It has also been acknowledged as the power source behind Superman Blue, and as a power beyond even Kismet's. Kismet being the representation of an at least 11th dimensional universe, and as the dividing line between the Lords of Order and Chaos. He of course has time travel as well, even showing the capability of reacting to a spell intended to send him through time, and changing the spell mid-effect to send him where he wanted to go instead of the designated time, which is incredibly dangerous, by the way. He's died and returned from death numerous times. That goes double for the number.
Native American power with tobacco smoke. Cheer 100.
Kinda, yeah.
Number of times he's escaped from hell unscathed, although these are often left unexplained. Packed along with all this hacks, the Laughing Magician seems to have respectable speed as well, despite what you might think. As we already saw, time and distance themselves bend the knee to Constantine whilst he is riding the Synchronicity Highway, which he always is. If fate dictates that it would be best for Constantine to be in a certain place at a certain time, he will be there. This is already what we would call irrelevant speed, where both parts of the speed equation don't apply to the character's movement. But he has his own feats on this level as well. He was able to easily evade a punch.
Okay, when it comes to synchronicity, I don't know if that's so much as his speed. I would argue that his thing with the synchronicity is because he's riding the Synchronicity Highway, he's just kind of, all of his actions sort of are like drive him with, without him maybe even realizing it, driving him to these places where he's needed. So it's basically he's living a serendipitous life, that his actions just happen to lead him to this place exactly where he is needed. Not so much that he is moving really fast. And I don't know if it would be considered plot armor. He is the embodiment of plot convenience. Not plot armor, but plot convenience. He always happens to be right where he needs to be. And it's not because he moves really fast, it's just all of the actions he takes or that others take just happen to end up landing him exactly where he needs to be. So, not like Superman, because Superman actually has super speed. John is just going through life, and life is literally, no matter what he's doing, directing him where he needs to go, so at the right time, he happens to be in the right place to deal with whatever needs to be dealt. That's what it seems like. So it's not so much that he's fast, it's that.
But he has his own feats on this level as well. He was able to easily evade a punch from the Spectre. On the left there, you can see the Spectre trying to punch him. And on the right page, you can see him pointing and laughing at God, completely unarmed. He is able to traverse the green using something called a wood walk, thanks to the pint of druid's blood inside him that he was able to win in a very enjoyable game of chance. After resisting God's influence, he was able to evade Zoriel.
Constantine is Gandalf, a wizard appearing when and where he needs to be. Pete Shear 100.
I think Constantine might actually take offense to being compared to Gandalf. Realistically speaking, I think he would call Gandalf a wanker.
Long enough to trick him into the House of Mystery, where Constantine's able to a very enjoyable game of chance. After resisting God's influence, he was able to evade Zoriel long enough to trick him into the House of Mystery, where Constantine summoned a seal underneath him. Which leads me onto the house itself. Constantine was able to win the House of Mystery off of Father Time and Dr. Occult in a game of poker. The house exists outside of time and space, and can be summoned by Constantine at any time. It has inbuilt traps and defenses within it, some natural to the house and others set up by Constantine. Notably the seals I mentioned earlier. The Phantom Stranger was completely mind-hexed and became lost within the house after he tried to leave it. When Swamp Thing was attempting to use the power of the entire green against Nightmare Nurse and Constantine, the house stepped in to protect him. Anyone that accepts an invitation into the House of Mystery can then be forcefully summoned by Constantine to fight for him. This includes a huge range of characters, from Swamp Thing, Zatanna, and Deadman, to beings like the Spectre or Zoriel. The house doesn't offer half-bad protection either. Should it ever become damaged or destroyed in any way, it will simply regenerate. And after the destruction of all of creation by Pralaya, the house and Constantine were the only things left remaining in the end. The seals put onto the house.
Wait. The house is so fucking strong. It survives the ending of all creation itself. Fucking hell. I mean, now that is kinda plot armory. Where you've got the House of Mystery that can survive literally the destruction of all of reality and creation. I guess? I guess it means that it exists outside of creation? But Jesus, that's... Well, okay, Big Dog, in fairness, this isn't John that's this powerful. The House of Mystery is its own thing. John just won it in a goddamn poker game against Father Time. So, yeah, don't think that this is John's power. This is the House of Mystery's own power. It's basically a super powerful artifact. Big Dog, if I were to guess, with John, his soul, that's kind of what he always bets in these things. I'll just bet my soul.
Constantine even allowed it to withstand direct attacks from Pralaya, a being powerful enough to swallow God himself. Sounds like one hell of a poker game to me, that's for sure. He has some other useful artifacts as well, like the Moonblade, a weapon capable of directly affecting concepts and trapping gods within it, which he used to seal away Mr. E, who I mentioned earlier. Another blade of his, called the Twin Blade, was forged from 2 Lords of Hell, and was capable of rending the first of the fallen mortal and killing him. Constantine occasionally carries an artifact known as a fairy prison that can capture and seal things. He owns the Skeleton Key, a key capable of opening anything in creation. It was notably capable of opening a box that contained books that many sorcerers wanted from across the planet, but nobody could get into it except for Constantine with this key. Against an amped Swamp Thing, he used wish-granting magic matches from the pollen.
One thing to take note of here. We're hearing about all of this crazy shit, but we must not forget, this is not John's power in and of itself. A lot of what we're seeing here, well, Gore, the reason is, this is not his natural magical ability. These are trinkets. These are devices. They're items. It's not John's own power. John was smart and has cultivated all of these items and artifacts and uses them like a soldier uses various weapons and tools in his or her arsenal. So it's not simply John's power. It's also the tools that he's cultivated over years and his knowledge of what they can do. So that lends credence to his intellect. Is that, like, he knows, okay, I need to get this thing. I know what this thing can do. I know when to basically pull this thing out, use it in a situation that's needed. Well, okay, we're seeing all of, like, how powerful John is, but John doesn't win every single time. John has, like, lost plenty and lost big. The thing to remember with John is, at the heart of John, he's a con artist. He's very good at, they said he's good at planning. Like, that's all his lead when he's planning. But he runs a con, be it a short con or a long con. And that's where a lot of his quote-unquote power is. He is a very powerful magical user, but he knows how to use that magic in tricky ways, along with the various devices and totems and everything that he has cultivated. He is a trickster and a con artist that knows how to use these things to the best of his advantage. That, I think, is probably the biggest power. Kind of like how Batman's biggest thing is his intellect. Yes, physically he is, like, top peak human performance, but it's his mind, his tactical mind, his investigative mind that is a big part of what makes him great.
Love to see his bag of holding cheer 100.
Oh, he probably has one, Grey Wolf, I have no doubt.
Element of flames to depower him for 1 hour. This particular Swamp
Basically,
Thing had power on par with the voice.
The spectre had Constantine contained in a personal hell for hundreds of years on the orders of God, as a punishment for some crime against heaven he committed in order to save the world. Cheer 100.
Yeah, and Andrew, I think they basically altered that from the DC Crisis thing because the Spectre did that to Constantine after the events of Justice League Dark Apocalypse. Because what happened at the conclusion of Justice League Dark Apocalypse is he convinced the Flash. He convinced, but then it was later revealed that he magically did something to the Flash's mind that made the Flash create a new Flashpoint to undo everything that happened in Justice League Apocalypse. And as punishment for doing that, the Spectre did that. He basically put him into his own personal hell for hundreds of years until the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths. So they updated the occurrences and what happened for the current generation of DC fans.
he used wish-granting magic matches from the Parliament of Flames to depower him for 1 hour. This particular Swamp Thing had power on par with the voice of God at this time.
Yeah.
Constantine also keeps all of his clothes heavily warded and protected at all times, as you would expect. All of this might make it seem like Constantine is all hacks and no brawn, which is somewhat true, but he's pulled out some serious AP feats using his magic before as well. He literally tore Nergal's spine right out of his body with his bare hands, which is even more impressive when you consider that Nergal's body was so large and complex that Richie was losing his mind after trying to process it, even though he has travelled all the way to Limbo using quantum magic, making Nergal's physical body larger than Limbo itself, which is an outerversal realm. This is of course possible due to weird demon magic. When fighting the Upside Down Man, he unleashed a seal that was capable of killing God. It didn't work on the Upside Down Man due to his invulnerability to magic, however, saying that it was like throwing a bucket of water into a tsunami. Blight is probably the toughest enemy that Constantine has ever tried to face, well, excluding fucking Margaret Thatcher, that is. Blight is the embodiment of humanity.
Wait, what?
Excluding fucking Margaret Thatcher, that is.
In front of a TV screen that's going to be broadcasting till dawn, and the result of the first election in 1987. Oh God. So he hates Margaret Thatcher. Okay. Fair enough.
Blight is the embodiment of humanity's shadow, and represents the evil in all men's hearts given life and form. Blight's mere existence is enough to corrupt those around him, and his actions were causing creation itself to crack open. Blight was shown easily dealing with the Phantom Stranger and Zoriel, with neither of them being able to hurt him at all. Even the Presence fears Blight, because as long as a single man harbours a single dark thought, Blight will exist, and that is something God himself cannot prevent. Blight continues to go stronger over time as well, as the evil he spreads thereby increases his power. But Constantine and Nightmare Nurse were able to force this monster to his knees using something called the Blackmare Curse, turning them both into mini Blights themselves. They were able to overpower Blight temporarily, but unfortunately it was no use, as attempting to defeat or harm Blight in any way is itself a dark thought that only makes him stronger. The Blackmare Curse also comes with the downside of making Constantine an uncontrollable beast, but it does come with immense power. Now, I'm sure it's pretty common knowledge that the source of much of Constantine's magic is the demon blood running through his veins.
Let's see. Living beings who by birth or intervention carry the blood of a full magical being within their veins are capable of withstanding a level of magic a human being cannot normally handle. John Constantine is the most well-known of these wielders, though he started his career as a common magician. Once Constantine was infected with demon blood, he became capable of performing far more dangerous and risky magic. Invoking hybrid magic this way comes at a cost, as these spells tax a user's soul each time they perform an incantation. Good.
Something that was given to him by Nergal very early into his Hellblazer run. So you would think that without this, Constantine would be pretty useless. Well, this actually happened. The aforementioned Upside Down Man, a being who is the embodiment of the Great Darkness itself, ripped the demon's blood from Constantine. But even after this, the Hellblazer was able to perform some incredibly high-end feats. He puppeteered Swamp Thing using a massive beacon of magic to fight Nabu. He created a blast so powerful using forbidden dark magic that Nabu was forced to protect himself with a ward, causing Constantine to hurt a Tree of Wonder amped Swamp Thing instead. He was able to use a binding spell on witch-marked Wonder Woman, who rivaled Hecate in power. He also excised Hecate from 3 other victims. Hecate herself was able to fight with the Upside Down Man, the incarnation of a being equal to the Presence. All of this was performed without any demon's blood at all. He should of course still have access to the synchronicity wave without his demon's blood too, since that comes from his lineage as a laughing magician and not his demon's blood. Even when there was next to no magic to tap into at all due to the vampire Cain absorbing it, he was still capable of creating a portal to the afterlife. Some other miscellaneous feats I was unsure where else to put. include the time that Constantine, Swamp Thing, and Nightmare Nurse all merged with the collective consciousness of every soul to have ever existed. Constantine could continue to fight even when his soul was removed from his body. He's broken the rules of hell, preventing him from ever going there when he dies.
Ever watch Constantine's City of Demons? Cheer 100.
Yes. And I was going to bring that up at the end of the video, Laruk.
He was able to trick Billy Batson into empowering Constantine with the powers of Shazam so that he could fight a demon. The King of Vampires was unable to affect him thanks to his demon blood, instead just burning the bloodsucker. He can summon demons, although this seems to be a bit hit and miss, as on one occasion he accidentally summoned his target's demon servant instead. He has a spell to pull clones of himself back into his body. He has a little demon familiar attached to the House of Mystery called No'ol, not that this demon has any real feats though. And he's resisted and unwound a spell that would have otherwise wiped his memory. In one of his more classic escapades, Constantine is on the brink of death due to cancer, and the first of the fallen has already claimed his soul. So he then tricks two other Lords of Hell into also buying his soul, making each of them obliged to take it, which would force Hell into a terrible internal struggle, leaving them vulnerable to the forces of heaven, who would then defeat them.
Actually, okay, this is a bit disingenuous, what he's saying right here. What happened is, yes, John had cancer, and was going to die of cancer. And what he did is, what was said right here is correct. He did sell his soul not only to the first of the fallen, but to two other high-ranking demons of hell. And so when the time came, they were going to fight over it. And because that would have caused a incredible strife within hell, and I think this became a part of it as well, he basically told Lucifer, or the devil, told him, you don't want me in hell, because inside of 5 years, I'll be running this place. And Lucifer, the devil, actually was like, yeah, he probably will. He'll probably end up running hell and unseating me. And they cured his cancer and sent it back to Earth. Because if Constantine died, basically every major demon in hell would be destroyed or would be placed under the thumb of John. And so they said, okay, yeah, we're here to answer. You're going back to Earth. We don't want you here. Revan, it wasn't really like from the Keanu movie, because in the Keanu movie, he tricked the devil. In the Keanu movie, because he made a sacrifice of he would go with the devil if he let what's-her-name's sister go to heaven instead of residing in hell, and the devil said, fine, she can go. But because he made that sacrifice, it got him into heaven. The devil said, no, I don't want that, he's mine, and thus cured John's cancer. So he didn't cure John's cancer in the movie out of fear that John would basically be running hell inside of 5 years. He did it in the movie because he still wanted John's soul. So it was a big difference.
Terrible internal struggle, leaving them vulnerable to the forces of heaven, who would then defeat them. What this basically meant is that these Lords of Hell were forced to keep Constantine alive so he would never die and they would never be obligated to collect his soul. And as such, they had to cure his lung cancer.
Okay, maybe it was a different storyline I'm thinking of. With the devils, where he basically told the devil I'd be running it inside 5 years and they send it back. That might have been a totally different plot. Like, John has had so many fucking plot lines where demons and devils want to, like, lay claim to his soul, that I'm probably getting them mixed up, because he's, like, selling his soul to a devil every other fucking day. So it's damn near impossible to keep track of it, how many times he sold it, to whom.
He's also directly threatened the presence that one time, which seemed to work for whatever that's worth, but it's not really a direct feat. It was more so just Constantine saying that he would rile up a bunch of problems in hell if the presence didn't do what he wanted. Honestly, I'm sure there are several feats I neglected to go over in this video, but it's pretty in-depth already, so I'll leave it here. I hope you all enjoyed my little rundown of Constantine in this video. Go ahead and check out the rest of my channel for more DC stuff, and give me some ideas in the comments for videos you would like to see. And otherwise, I will see you all next time.
That was good. That was cool, seeing all of some of the cool shit that John has done over the course of his life. And yeah, there's and who was it? Rygat, was that you that asked if I'd ever seen, or LaRuck, you asked if I ever saw City of Demons. Yes, I did. It's interesting because City of Demons actually started off as, I think, like 3 or 4 shorts that only lasted like 5 minutes. It originally started as like a small collection of 3 or 4 5-minute John Constantine shorts that then got added on, and they became a full like hour and a half length movie. And that was a tragic one, because I don't know if you guys want me to spoil it, because it involves one of his best friends, Chaz. But that was one of those situations where, I say that like John Constantine doesn't always win. That was a situation where, technically speaking, John did win in the end, but he also lost. It was actually a really heartbreaking ending. The way City of Demons ended. Like, he emerged the victor, but he still lost big time at the end of it. I don't necessarily want to spoil it because it is a good movie. And if you want to see it, I definitely recommend going to see it, because it's a great movie.